Selamat datang kembali dalam Virtual Conference Indonesia Economic Outlook 2022. Sebelum kita masuk ke sesi berikutnya, kita akan melakukan pengundian terlebih dahulu untuk mendapatkan door prize. Pada door prize kali ini akan ada 3 pemenang yang akan mendapatkan e-wallet senilai Rp500.000. Bagi para peserta yang mendapatkan door prize, nanti di akhir acara bisa langsung menghubungi kami di nomor WhatsApp yang nanti akan saya sampaikan. Tapi sebelumnya kita ikuti pengundian terlebih dahulu. Ini pemenang pertama yang mendapatkan Rp500.000 e-wallet. Kita mulai, akan saya hitung. 1, 2, 3, start. Oke, ini dia pemenangnya dengan kode undian KGTWEF dengan nama Nur Afni Octavia. Selamat Nur Afni, sudah mendapatkan e-wallet senilai Rp500.000. Kita nantikan siapa pemenang kedua. Saya akan hitung kembali. Start. Stop. Baik, ini dia pemenang yang kedua. Selamat kepada Ratna Wuandari yang sudah mendapatkan e-wallet senilai Rp500.000. Kita masih ada satu pemenang lagi, Bapak Ibu peserta. Saya akan kembali hitung. 1, 2, 3, start. Stop. Nah, ini dia pemenang yang ketiga adalah Roni Hutagalung. Selamat kepada Roni Hutagalung dan juga 2 pemenang lainnya, masing-masing mendapatkan e-wallet senilai Rp500.000. Bagi para pemenang yang kemudian mendapatkan e-wallet pada sesi kali ini, diharapkan menghubungi kami panitia melalui WhatsApp ke nomor 0838 7072 6000. Sekali lagi 0838 7072 6000. Baik, artinya kita sudah punya 3 pemenang untuk sesi kali ini dan kita akan bersiap untuk memasuki sesi yang kedua pada hari ini. Kita akan mengikuti rangkaian acara sepanjang hari ini dan mungkin akan saya break terlebih dahulu. Sebelum kita menuju ke sesi berikutnya, kita akan saksikan yang berikut ini.
Every human has unique body shapes and different ways of sleep. King Coil presents the signature Gold Response Series, inspired by you. Revolutionary auto-response gold coil system technology, which has adaptive responses according to the pressure. This auto-response gold coil technology can also reduce the occurrences of pressure points. Every pocket coil is arranged in honeycomb formation, creating auto body zoning system on the mattress so it can sustain a variety of body shapes. Luxurious comfort layers consisting of the natural fiber of horsehair layers, exclusive fabrics, and Vita Talale latex is the perfect luxury of sleeping. Every day, you can experience an extraordinary sleep. The passion and devotion of King Coil are engraved in each mattress, only to create your personalized comfort that individually understands you. Equipped with King Coil V-Guard to protect your mattress from microbial and viral activities for your safe and luxurious night's sleep. Embrace the true work of art with your passion and sink deep into the world of King Coil. World-class standard of comfort. The one-of-a-kind indulgence. and the masterpiece you can touch and feel night after night. The golden print of signature that redefines luxury. King Coil.
Cuma rebahan tapi bisa bikin perubahan. Waktunya mulai bisa apa aja dari satu aplikasi. Mulai adaptasi cara bayar baru.
Bisa, kan pakai Kris, jadi mudah.
Mulai eksplorasi cara tarik tunai baru.
Bisa lah. Dengan mobile tunai, gak perlu ribet.
Mulai melihat potensi bisnis baru.
Bisa dong, transfer luar negeri cukup dari sini.
Yuk, buka tabungan BNI,
Cukup selfie.
dan aktifkan BNI Mobile Banking.
Mulai bisa apa aja sekarang.
Begitu banyak hal yang kudapat dari ayah. Kata ayah, kebahagiaan itu lebih terasa bila dirasakan bersama. Seperti saat kita berbagi. Kata ayah, berbagi yang ikhlas itu adalah bentuk rasa syukur. Ayah tuh selalu memperhatikan hal-hal yang kecil. Katanya, semua itu bisa berpengaruh di masa depan. Terus, ayah tuh senang sekali kalau melihat kita mau berusaha dan gak putus asa. Dan juga bermanfaat buat orang banyak. Gitu kata ayah.
Seperti Widodo Makmur Perkasa yang selalu menghadirkan hanya yang terbaik untuk kehidupan. Widodo Makmur Perkasa.
Sajikan kehidupan penuh makna.
Kapan kita harus mulai?
Mari tanyakan Mas Iqbal.
Tunggu hari baik.
1 Januari 2112.
Kali.
Berani mulai investasi sekarang.
Invest saham atau reksadana
Di satu aplikasi ajaib.
gampang buat yang baru berani mulai.
Aman lagi. Bisa meroket kapan aja. Yuk, saatnya berani mulai investasi saham.
Dan reksadana.
Ajaib, berani maju.
Semua pekerjaan pasti ada risikonya, termasuk pekerja informal. Tapi nggak perlu lebay juga untuk pelindungan kerjanya. Lebay kalah hadapi panasnya kerja di lapangan.
Lebay agar aman dari risiko kerja di jalanan. Atau lebay saat coba-coba pekerjaan kekinian. Ada cara yang lebih mudah. Miliki perlindungan kerja dari BP Jam Sostek. Hanya dengan Rp16.800 per bulan.
Hello and welcome to our corporate video. Companies around the world have been through several challenges. Some of them prevail and manage to conduct world-class business activities, while the rest are currently struggling with their day-to-day operations. We believe those could be enhanced through a solid system, a system so well-made and efficient to the level where the ordinary companies will grab an opportunity to implement world-class productivity system.
to a system we proudly name Run System, Enterprise Resource Planning.
It's not only ERP, it's Run System.
Mudahnya cari hunian impian untuk memulai perjalanan baru. Ada jutaan pilihan sesuai kebutuhanmu. Dari nyari sampai nempatin rumah baru, karena kami ada buat kamu. Temukan hunian impian di rumah123.com.
Cuma rebahan tapi bisa bikin perubahan. Waktunya mulai bisa apa aja dari satu aplikasi. Mulai adaptasi cara bayar baru.
Bisa kan pakai Kris, jadi mudah.
Mulai eksplorasi cara tarik tunai baru.
Bisa lah. Dengan mobile tunai, gak perlu ribet.
Mulai melihat potensi bisnis baru.
Bisa dong, transfer luar negeri cukup dari sini.
Yuk buka tabungan BNI,
Cukup selfie.
dan aktifkan BNI Mobile Banking.
Mulai bisa apa aja sekarang.
Realisasi pendapatan asli daerah terus meningkat sebelum pandemi sehingga meningkatkan kemandirian daerah. Di mana 50,65% penduduk yang didominasi generasi milenial dan Gen Z adalah potensi yang sangat penting dioptimalkan untuk menyambut era Society 5.0. Pemerintah Kota Malang tak henti-hentinya terus menata dan mempercantik wajah bumi Arema. Salah satunya penataan kayu tangan sebagai ibu kota heritage Malang Raya.
Here we are, a place for you to learn, find solutions, and develop knowledge and skills in business and management. We provide you with the methodology of case study prevalent in the academic and business world. So if you want to be fast, sharp, and relevant in business management, believe in yourself, believe in us, because now is your time.
Dengan inisiatif transisi energi, Pertamina menyediakan energi bersih ramah lingkungan untuk melindungi hijaunya bumi. Hangatnya sinar matahari, melimpahnya panas bumi, memenuhi kebutuhan energi dengan menekan emisi. Ayo bergerak bersama menjaga lestarinya alam demi masa depan bumi kita. Pertamina, energizing sustainable future, energizing you.
Halo, Nes. Ini saya menggunakan namanya Pak Yu. Apa Pak Yu nanti nggak bermasalah loginnya? Ada Yohanes Nangoy. Itu yang dikirim.
Cuma rebahan tapi bisa bikin perubahan. Waktunya mulai bisa apa aja dari satu aplikasi. Mulai adaptasi cara bayar baru.
Bisa kan pakai Kris, jadi mudah.
Mulai eksplorasi cara tarik tunai baru.
Bisa lah. Dengan mobile tunai, gak perlu ribet.
Mulai melihat potensi bisnis baru.
Bisa dong, transfer luar negeri cukup dari sini.
Yuk buka tabungan BNI,
Cukup selfie.
dan aktifkan BNI Mobile Banking.
Mulai bisa apa aja sekarang.
Kapan kita harus mulai? Mana tanyakan jam masih baru.
Tunggu hari baik.
1 Januari 2112.
Kali.
Berani mulai investasi sekarang.
Invest saham atau reksadana
Di satu aplikasi ajaib.
gampang buat yang baru berani mulai.
Aman lagi. Bisa meroket kapan aja. Yuk, saatnya berani mulai investasi saham.
Dan reksadana.
Ajaib, berani maju.
Mudahnya cari hunian impian untuk memulai perjalanan baru. Ada jutaan pilihan sesuai kebutuhanmu. Dari nyari sampai nempatin rumah baru. Karena kami ada buat kamu. Temukan hunian impian di rumah123.com.
cek.
Selamat siang dan selamat
Good afternoon and welcome again to the Indonesia Economic Outlook 2022 virtual conference. On this second session this afternoon, we are going to discuss acceleration of industrial development in 2022. And I would like to remind you that this is a 4-day event with each day filled with 3 sessions covering various topics. The event is organized by BeritaSatu Media Holding with the collaboration of Ajaib, BNI, PT Timah Industri, and PT Steel Pipe Industry of Indonesia, Tbk. My name is Patricia Mapelier, and today I would be accompanied by BeritaSatu Media Holding Director of News, Mr. Primus Dorimolo. So how are you, Mr. Primus? Good, I'm good. So to begin this second session today, we're going to listen to the keynote speech by Mr. Agus Gumiwang Kartasasmita, Minister of Industry Republic of Indonesia. The floor is yours, sir.
Terima kasih, Mbak Patricia.
Thank you, Patricia. Mr. Primus, Head of Reporting of BeritaSatu, Mr. Ivan Cokro, Ms. Ria Wardani from PT Timah Industri, Mr. Tumiana, CEO of PT Widodo Makmur Perkasa, Mr. Tirta Jaya Hambali from Dynaplast Group, and Pak Tangoy from Gaikindo, as well as the participants of our forum this afternoon. I have been asked to speak about the downstreaming, the boosting of downstreaming of industry and especially export-oriented industry. The Ministry of Industry would like first to appreciate BeritaSatu for giving us the opportunity to speak on key issues on today's topic, a very relevant topic, a relevant issue to what we are striving to achieve as a nation, and particularly in the Ministry of Industry. We are almost at the end of 2021, a year of challenges, but we have passed it with a series of economic achievements that we should be proud of. Several industrial key indicators in the third quarter of 2021 showed significant improvement. The first indicator is the growth in the growth of industrial sector, which stood at 4.12%, which is in line with the national economic growth of 3.5%. And non-oil and gas industry contributes to 17.33% to the growth, higher than other sectors. Another factor is investment in the industrial sector from January to September 2021 has recorded 236.79 trillion rupiah. And purchasing manager index for Indonesian manufacturer, which stood at 57.2 in October 2021. This is the highest in the history of our republic. And another indicator, the fifth indicator, is in line with our theme. Our industry contributed to 77.616% to our export. This is a continued rise since 2016. This is an increase of 7% from the same period last year. And the value of export is 143.76 billion rupiah, which is higher than even during the pandemic. This is about 80% of export of Indonesia in 2020. In January until October of this year, there is a growth of export of 77.16% of export out of the $143.76 billion. This increase in performance is tied to our efforts to mitigate the pandemic in Indonesia. This achievement allows us to be optimistic of the performance of the industrial sector at the end of 2021. We are optimistic that they will be able to achieve their goal of 4% growth for the gas and oil industry, non-gas and oil by 18%, and export of industrial products to increase by 75%. In 2022, the growth across all sectors will allow us to be optimistic that our projected growth for manufacturing sector in 2022 will increase significantly at 5 to 5.5%. Ladies and gentlemen, and the audience of BeritaSatu, to maintain and increase the contribution of manufacture, the government had provided various policies and incentives, including substitution of import by 35% by the end of 2022. This has been launched with priority on the subsector with great import value in 2019. So the benchmark is in 2019. And export-oriented industry and import substitution are two different concepts, but in my opinion, both have positive correlation, strong positive correlation to the growth. To be export-oriented, an industry has to grow properly and to develop within a healthy economic environment. Healthy economic environment for an industry will allow it to grow better, but it cannot thrive in influx of import. So substitution and control of imports is a necessity to give domestic industry to grow, to develop, and develop their own competitiveness until they are established and prepared and capable to compete on the international market. So import substitution also allows for promoting the utilization of development, acceleration of downstreaming, and in our import section composition, import still makes a huge contribution to our manufacturing, and it is expected that we will be able to reduce that dependence on imports, and instead we will be able to produce more downstream products for export. In the past few years, following the instruction from President Joko Widodo to strengthen Indonesian manufacturing sector, the Ministry of Industry has supported and issued policies to support downstreaming of industries with a wide range of impact, including the increase of added value to the products and an increase in export foreign exchange reserves. We need to remember that one of the president's priority program is economic transformation from natural resources to industry with added value. So Indonesia should transition from exporter of natural resources to exporter of finished products. The increase in manufacturing export indicates there is a shift in Indonesian export from primary commodities to manufactured products with added value. This is the characteristic of an industrial country, characteristic of a country that we are aiming for. To reach the level of competitiveness and added value requires the strengthening of the structure of industry from upstream to downstream. Taking into consideration Indonesia's natural resources, the focus on downstreaming is on industry that is based on mining and mineral, coal and agriculture. In the mining-based downstreaming, we will see it in the development of the following industries, the developing of smelters. Currently, we have developed and run 12.3 ton for nickel, 6 tons for aluminum, 2.3 tons for copper, 19 ton for steel annually, and other industries, other smeltering industries. By developing the metal smeltering facilities since 2017 until the third quarter of 2021 has resulted in 69 companies with a total investment of 51 billion dollars US dollars. And in this downstreaming of oil and gas based industry, the downstreaming is done by developing conversion of coal to chemicals. So we are preparing to develop plans to convert coal to methanol. This is one of the pioneering industries in Indonesia that we are accelerating in the hopes of converting coals into methanol and DME by over 4 tons annually. The gasification of coal program is supported by the 38.84 billion tons of batubara reserves, and this might support us until 2019 with an annual production rate of 600 million tons. So this is another source of growth for the national economy that is also sustainable, but it will end the tradition of export of raw material without any processing. Apart from gasification of the coal, conversion of coal through gasification, we are also preparing a petrochemical plant in Gresik that will transforms petrols into olefin, polyolefins, and other products. With other petrochemical plants under construction, we are hoping that in the short term, Indonesia will become the first petrochemical country in the region. Another progress is made in the downstreaming of agriculture, in this case, export of palm oil products, which has consistently increased in the past 5 years, resulting in a very significant addition to the foreign exchange reserves. Indonesia had downstreamed the palm oil industry, as we can see in the ratio of export of raw material, and the downstream products made up 90%. So in 2021, we only export 9% of raw material and compared to 90.73% of processed products. The downstreaming of this commodity, both the palm oil and the oil palm and palm oil, is also geared toward the global market, especially for the F6 necessity: food, fuel, fine chemicals, phytonutrition, so vitamins and nutrition, feed, fiber, which constitutes new material. And one of the achievements in developing of biofuel in 2020 has been achieved through the 30% mandatory biodiesel, which absorbed about 10 million tons of CPO, which functions as demand management tool. So it observes the overproduction of CPO and maintained world CPO prices, and the price of fresh oil palm fruits on the farmers level. And this has resulted in efficiency in foreign reserves efficiency by around 38 trillion, and creating an added value for CPO by 13 trillion, and reduction of carbon dioxide by 16.92 tons. So these values will continue to increase once an integrated supply chain has been established. We are still working toward that. CPO and CPO product industry has so far been following the upstream industry like methyl ester, fatty alcohol manufacturing. CPO has not been used to develop downstream industries like pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, surfactants, and other basic chemicals. By developing downstream industries, the value, the supply chain value, and the value of CPO as raw material itself will continue to increase, especially since CPO is closely related to the public necessity, including fertilizers, pesticides, and additives to food and other commodities. The government is optimistic about the policy to boost downstreaming of industry. We believe that this will strengthen Indonesian manufacturing, and we are not subject. We will no longer be the subject to the volatile prices of commodities. The government will take an active part in increasing the value of the natural resources in Indonesia and processing them to a half-finished product and a final product. We need to remember that Indonesia has comparative advantage over other countries, and this comparative advantage is strengthened by our engineering capability. Once we are able to compete in producing competitive products for both the domestic and the global market. Indonesian downstream industry products is supported by the policies that we have outlined in our roadmap. With this roadmap, we revitalize the manufacturing sector and build an economy that is based on innovation. Innovation and technology 4.0 are considered the key to driving the quality of industry, that is making them more efficient, making them more able to contribute to the country's economy. Our capacity to boost the capacity of industry and its export value will require various facilities in fiscal and non-fiscal sector. The Ministry of Industry and other ministry and institutions had provided ease of business by providing key manufacturing components, including manpower, and raw material. So there is basically no excuse that downstreaming isn't possible. So this is going to be the determining or the defining feature of our manufacturing industry. We cannot rely on imports. We cannot let other countries take advantage of our resources. We are on the right track right now toward that. The priority of downstreaming has shown satisfactory progress, but we cannot be complacent. There are still rooms for improvement to optimize the downstreaming of the manufacturing sector. We run into a number of obstacles that we have to find a solution for. For example, the issue of technological capacity and infrastructure availability and integration of a supply chain. The urgency toward developing downstreaming is more evident after the pandemic. The pandemic had affected the global supply chain, and we know how the world is now undergoing a crisis in containers, a crisis in ships, the rising cost of logistics in the past couple of months, and this situation had rendered millions or even billions of products cannot moved or be transported. They have to wait in line to be transported, and creating backlogs in supplies. And reflecting on this situation, the government is striving to make sure that the long-term effect of this to Indonesia can be minimized or avoided. For example, for the automotive industry, Indonesia do not yet have a semiconductor industry. So some products that are made in Indonesia that are dependent on semiconductor are undergoing or some significant disruption, not only in automotive, but also in other electronic sector, in electronic manufacturing sector. So we have to start the development of semiconductor industry in Indonesia to help us build resilience in this kind of situation, so that we are no longer completely dependent on imported semiconductor. The development of semiconductor industry is a downstreaming industry from the silica sand that we can find all over Indonesia. This is a challenge for the government to make sure that these natural resources can be used and developed in our downstream manufacturing industry. So that's what I can share at this auspicious moment. Our hope is that all the stakeholders involved will be able to give the necessary input to accelerate the development of downstream industry in 2022, which in turn will help in the recovery of the national economy. So thank you so much for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sehat. Thank you, Mr. Agus Gumiwang Kartasasmita, Minister of Industry, for his keynote speech. Pak Primus, do you have any question for him? Just one question, Minister. We appreciate your explanation. You spoke on behalf of the Indonesian government that we are on the right track in terms of downstreaming of manufacturing industry, and our export has shifted from commodities to processed or final products. My question is, you spoke of a roadmap of Indonesia 4.0. There are 7 industries that are going to be developed. The biggest contribution to industry, at 38%, is food and beverage. There is also electronics, petrochemicals, and automotive, and also pharmaceuticals and healthcare. So these 2 industries have grown during the pandemic. So food and beverage, automotive and electronics, which industry is making the most progress? Is it the food and industry, or you mentioned also petrochemicals, but we also have very good automotive industry. So could you give us a brief explanation as to which one is the best? As a Minister of Industry, I cannot give a statement about the 7 industrial sectors, which of them are the most important, because all 7 have been thoroughly analyzed and named as 7 priorities. So all 7 priorities, all 7 industry sectors represent the 60%, almost 60% of our total manufacturing industry in Indonesia, and almost 60% of total job opportunities in manufacturing in Indonesia. And this is a very dynamic state. Every sector is supported to allow them to become an agent of change. Petrochemical is just an example, because we aim to be one of the biggest petrochemical country in the region. But other sectors, for example, the automotive sector, in 2030, we have a roadmap that shows that by 2030, because we know that we have the capacity to produce batteries, electric vehicle batteries. So by 2030, we are also hoping that Indonesia will become the export hub of electric vehicles, electric cars, for example. So these can be exported from Indonesia. So these are just 2 examples. So food and beverage is also a strategic industry, and they also contribute the biggest numbers to the manufacturing statistics, because they have significant domestic market. I would also like to add that for automotive, we need to continue to support domestic automotive industry, because not only automotive sector, but also other sectors. But for automotive industry, as of today, the ratio of car ownership in Indonesia is only 9 cars per 1,000 people. So still very low. And this indicates the potentials. So when we talk about targeting or aiming at one of the 7th biggest economies in the world by 2030, something that I think is achievable. So when we become one of the top 7 economy in the world, our population will have bigger purchasing power, and with the bigger purchasing power, the 9 per 1,000 car ratio will continue to increase, and with the increased spending on vehicles is allocated to other industries other than ours. So our target in this case is every sector, so not just one sector. So I cannot say which one is the most important. It's a very dynamic list, and the challenges are also dynamic, and we should be able to find a solution for all of them.
Thank you so much, sir. And I know you have a tight schedule, so I understand you cannot remain with us during the entire session. Yes, but Mr. Minister, if you don't mind to have brief photo session with all the panelists. I invite the panelists and the audience to turn on your camera. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much, Pak Agus Gumiwang. Unfortunately, the Minister of Industry cannot stay with us during the entire session. Yes. And now we will enter the panel discussion with the topic to accelerate industrial development next year. And for those of you who would like to convey questions, you could use the Q&A feature. And now I give the floor to Pak Primus Dorimulu. Ladies and gentlemen, we heard a keynote speech from Bapak Agus Gumiwang Kartasasmita, Minister of Industry. And this is our second session from day 2 regarding 2022 Indonesia Economic Outlook. Here, as the Minister of Industry mentioned, that we have a lot to be optimistic about. From January until October of this year, the export have soared over 100%, even though there are several notes that we must be aware of. For example, even though the manufacturing industry contribute less than 20% of the GDP, but we understand that it could be increased above 30%. And then here, the contribution from the labor force is 16%. And here, when we want to accelerate the development, we have invited 5 resource people. First, Ibu Mega Nutriana, COO of PT Widodo Makmur Perkasa. Second, Bapak Tirta Jaya Hambali, CEO Dynaplus Group. Bapak Ivan Cokro, Managing Director of PT Guna Nusa Era Mandiri. Ibu Ria Wardani Pawan, Managing Director of PT Timah Industri, and then Bapak Yohanes Nangoy, Chairman of Gaikindo. So, ladies and gentlemen, we only have 1 hour and 20 minutes. I would like to invite Ibu Mega Nur Fitriana first. Thank you so much. I would like to convey my presentation regarding consumer goods and agricultural products in Indonesia. In the next 5 years, this sector will continue to grow. and supported by the number or the increase of population. And here we see that there's also an increase or the growth of GDP per capita from 39.7 million, and by 2025 it will reach 49.1 million. Now, this increased the confidence level of consumer goods industry. And then there's also an increase of benefit from the demographic bonus and also other aspects as mentioned by the minister. And here the productive age population, they have high lifestyle and dine out habits. Now this will encourage the F&B industry in Indonesia. And then for selected food market consumption in Indonesia, we see that it will grow continuously from 77 trillion. And by year 2025, it will increase over 1,000 trillion. Now here, this also because of the increasing consumption of beef, poultry, egg, rice, corn, maize, and sugar. And because there's an increasing number of consumption of meat or beef, and we see that there will be an increase of meat consumption, and same with poultry. There will be an increase or 1.7% annually. And then the consumption on beef and poultry currently is still low compared to other Asian countries. Now, here for poultry, it's only 11 kilogram per capita, and then for beef, only 2 kilogram per capita. However, Malaysia is high, the consumption of poultry, 53.1 kilogram per capita. And also compared to other ASEAN countries, it shows that there is still room for improvement for this sector in Indonesia. And in the next 5 years, the expected consumption towards poultry will increase, which is 15 kilogram per capita. And then for beef, it could be 2.9 kilogram per capita. And those are the figures regarding the food industry in Indonesia. And now I will talk briefly about the business line of Widodo Makmur Perkasa. We have 5 lines of business: the integrated cattle farm, and then integrated poultry farm, meat processing, commodities, and construction and renewable energy. Our core business is cattle farm, and this is the biggest in Indonesia with 172,000 capacity per year. And then for poultry, we have 4% market share, and we focus on the downstream. And then other business line, meat processing. We have meat processing like sausages, nugget, and meatballs. And this 3 aspect is the revenue driver for Widodo Makmur Perkasa. And then for others, agricultural commodities and construction also contribute to our entire business. Now, this is the ecosystem business that we develop here in Widodo Makmur Perkasa. We are integrated vertically and also horizontally. But our commodity provides support to the raw material of our feedlot for our beef and poultry. And then live cattle will be processed to our meat processing facility, and poultry will be processed further in the meat processing as well. It was mentioned that the meat processing produce beef cuts, nuggets, sausages, and meatballs. And then in our business line, we also receive support from renewable energy, and we install this in all of our facilities. In the near future, our group will develop an integrated farm in 3 locations, in Sumatra, Sulawesi, and Papua. The total coverage, 30,000 hectares. And we have signed MOU with the regional government. And at each location, we will build several production facilities, such as integrated farm and integrated poultry farm, maize plantation, renewable energy, feedlot, and biofertilizer facility. Now, with this integrated ecosystem, we estimate that we could receive efficiency, and we focus on green business model. This will support our industry further to create new market and security for our customers. And to know more about the integrated farm and cost efficiency in our ecosystem, we could start with integrated cattle farm. The waste from the cattle farm will be processed further so that it could become biogas and biofertilizer. And then the biofertilizer will be used for compost fertilizer. And the biofertilizer will create cost efficiency regarding the need for fertilizers. And then the maize or corn that we produce internally will be used as feedlot for poultry. And then the waste from the corn will be used for feedlot for our cattle. And then later, the chicken and cattle produced here will be processed further, and here with the maize, we could reduce the purchase of maize by 30% when we produce this internally. And then we also support the renewable energy, or in the form of solar panel that is installed in our facilities. And 5 years' time, we will install more than 150 megawatt of electricity to our facilities. And currently, we are installing various facility, and next year there will be 38 megawatt peak installed in our facility. I guess that is all from my side, Pak Primus. Thank you, Ibu Mega, for the concise presentation. You mentioned several important points. Now, Widodo Makmur Perkasa Tibika, so listed in the stock exchange, and this is an integrated farming facility. We see from the circular economy how they developed and integrate several aspects. And you mentioned about the cattle and the waste from the cattle. You could create biogas, biofertilizer, and you could also generate green economy. And you also plan to expand to Sumatra, to Sulawesi, and Papua region. And then the prospect of food and beverage is very high. And now, bear with me, we will go to our next speaker. I invite Bapak Tirta Jaya Hambali, CEO from Dynaplus Group. Thank you. Well, you consider me as senior or an elderly people. Yes, same as me. So here, allow me to start. First, the Honorable Pak Primus Dorimulu, the head of news agency from BeritaSatu Media Holding, and also our honorable speakers and ladies and gentlemen, the audience of Economic Outlook. First of all, I would like to give praise to Almighty God that we are in good health today. We could attend this important webinar, and I convey my utmost appreciation to BeritaSatu Media Holding for inviting me. And here I will talk about the acceleration of manufacturing industry development. Now here, I base my presentation on my perspective and the experience in our industry. And it could represent the plastic industry at the upstream level. And now allow me to give brief information about our history, Dynapack. We concentrate on plastic packaging and already established over 60 years ago. And we produce plastic bottles and other components for two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, automotive. And currently, we are operating in 6 countries. We have 33 factories, 15 of them located in Indonesia, with the name PT Dynaplast and Rapidplast. And we have catered to various industries. My apology, I'm trying to switch my slide. Now here, we cater towards various industry, as you see in this slide. And we have long-term relationship with our customers. And here, we also conveyed my utmost appreciation to the government, because back in 1991, we could enter the stock exchange market, and we have expanded our business significantly. And here, we want to thrive despite the pandemic, COVID-19 that we're facing. A brief information regarding the situation we're dealing. As we know that the pandemic affects all layers of society, now including our business as well. There is a decreased purchasing power, and apart from that, we also see opportunities. We do not engage in worker layoffs, and we also have to reconsider importing several raw materials that we have not produced internally, and we also face difficulties regarding the gas supply. And we are glad that with the relaxation policy from the government, we could receive some sort of leniency. And then regarding business prospect, we remain positive and optimistic regarding our business prospect in Indonesia. So again, thank you to the government for continuing to improve the business climate. And we see that from the release of Omnibus Law, the job creation law, and tax. And this will definitely affect the foreign direct investment and the domestic region. And here we do whatever we can to assist the government. One of them is through increasing job employment opportunities. Now, I noticed that the Minister of Industry mentioned that he has faith in our industry and it will continue to grow. I agree, and same prayer that we put for the plastic industry, because the plastic industry needs a lot of labor intensive. And here, there are a lot of things to support this industry to be able sustainable, because we also want to increase our export. Specifically, there are four main things that I would like to convey and hopefully could further develop the plastic industry in Indonesia. First, the application of the tax, just zero tax for raw material not yet produced domestically. And second, harmonizing the incoming tax tariff between raw material and finished product. Currently, for 0% for finished product, but for raw material, we're still experiencing tax. And then the harmonization of permit or licensing. Now, for every factory that we operate, we need 40 license or permit required. And then number 4, regarding incentive, so that we could develop our human resources and could also achieve sustainability factors, because sustainability is very important and is a part of our everyday life and in the future. In order to accelerate our industry, we focus on 3 pillars, as you see on the screen. First, we focus on sustainable aspects, so that we focus on circular economy, so that we could also have greener economy. And here we work together with Coca-Cola. We are building recycled material facility with a capacity of 25,000 tons, and hopefully it could become operational next year. And then other factories, we are putting solar panel to reduce CO2 emissions. Second point, regarding people's development. Here, we strongly believe that capable workforce becomes the driving factor of our company. Therefore, we also need government to establish more vocational schools so that the plastic industry could absorb them. And here I also would like to convey my utmost appreciation to Pak Airlangga Hartarto for supporting this industry. And then number 3, we want to continue good corporate governance principles. I guess that is all from my side. Thank you so much for the time and your kind attention. Thank you so much, Pak Tirta. Concise. And this is information regarding the plastic industry. And you operate in 6 countries: Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, and China. Oh, in 6 countries. Wonderful. And you have 33 factories, 15 of them located in Indonesia. And the minister just now mentioned that we should not export the raw material, but we should process it and make it a finished product, and in order to increase competitive advantage. Yes. And I realized that we have to import several raw material from overseas. And like in Vietnam, they could produce all of the materials. And then you mentioned about green economy and circular economy. This is important and in line with our presidential vision. I think we heard this, and now we will move to third speaker, Pak Ivan Cokro, Managing Director of PT Gunanusa Era Mandiri, and he's representing the millennial. The floor is yours, Pak Ivan.
Good afternoon, Pak Primus and the other panelists that I could not mention one by one, and also the participants of the webinar. Let me share my screen. Let me introduce our company because they say that if you don't know us, then you won't love us. Gunanusa Mandiri Group is a manufacturing industry in various, and we have various industry manufacturing, and we use, for example, we have a company producing car parts with Japanese technology, and then Mitra Pak Era Mandiri, we provide baby care and beauty care for Unilever, and then Cipta Pangan Sukses Makmur, a company that supports our distribution, service distribution sector, and the company that also imports products that we cannot source in Indonesia yet. But I'm going to focus my presentation on our food division because we produce nuts products from peanuts, almonds, cashews, and other kinds of nuts that we process into ready-to-use products. So if you eat peanut butter in biscuits or wafers or ice cream or bakery products, most likely those are produced by our company. Another division is also focused on nut products that produces certain brands of nut products that we sell both in Indonesia and other countries. We want to be the selected producers of nut products with the best quality and competitive prices in ASEAN. So we want to emphasize that if you need nut products, then you have to go to, we are your go-to company. These are some of our customers. So they come from various industries, bakery, confectionery, and also some of them are in other countries. We've exported our products to North America, Europe, Canada, Australia, and some Asian countries. So this is our market, basically. I want to give a brief overview of peanut industry. Globally, in 2019 to 2020 and 2020, the world produces about 41 million tons of peanuts. And the top 6 producers are China, India, Senegal, the US, Senegal, and others. And China is the biggest producer because they also convert it into oil, cooking oil. China, India, Nigeria, and the US are the top 4 consumers of peanuts, but Indonesia is in the 5th position. China is the biggest producer, but also the biggest consumer of peanuts, and the same with India and Nigeria and the US. Indonesia is the 5th biggest consumer, but we're not even in the top 10 of producers. I think we're in the 14th or 15th in terms of production. So I think this is something that we need to address. We need to increase our agriculture sector because we are the 2nd biggest importer of peanuts. We import 70 to 80% of our raw material from India. Netherlands is the 1st biggest importer because it's the gateway. So it imports for the rest of Europe. So we're the 2nd biggest importer of peanuts. So we are fully aware that this is a burden for us. So we turn this concern into something positive. We created Farming 4.0 program. We have only started it 1.5 years ago. We worked together with farmers in Central Sulawesi at the time. And the aim is to improve the farmers' welfare. We want to be able to contribute to the farmers because they are they are spearheading our food supply. So we want to improve their welfare and their education. So we developed this program to help them modernize their peanut farming model, both in the farming, harvesting, and in this way, we are able to educate them on modern farming. So the idea is to substitute all imported raw material with domestically sourced material to help us be more competitive in the international market and increase our domestic market. So the idea is in 4 years, we would be able to export our farms yields, at least in the Asian market. To do this, we have the Applicator 4.0 team. They serve as the educator and facilitator to improve the welfare of the farmers by creating a business that will be profitable for every involved stakeholders. We realize that we do not have the know-how to develop agriculture sector. So we involved this Applicator 4.0 to help the farmers, and then we use high technology in every stage of production to create better efficiency and create better competitiveness while giving the farmers better profit. So this is all because we all love this country. So that is all from me. Thank you very much. So, hello. Okay. Are you done, Mr. Ivan? Yes. Okay. So it's very brief, very concise, and so you focus on peanuts, and the idea is import substitution because Indonesia is still on the 14th or 15th biggest producers of peanuts, but it's the second biggest importers or consumers. So in the process, you use technology to produce peanuts using digitalized technology, and you focus on green economy. So now we're going to invite our fourth speaker, Ibu Ria Wardani Pawan, CEO of PT Timah Industri. The floor is yours, ma'am. So thank you, Pak Primus. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Pak Primus Darimulu of BeritaSatu, and also the other panelists and participants of Indonesia Economic Outlook 2022 webinar. PT Timah Industri is a subsidiary of PT Timah Tbk, a member of Mind ID, the Indonesian state-owned mining company. I'm going to show a number of slides to show what we do in our company. Now, the idea of our company, which is based in Cirebon, is downstreaming for optimization of foreign exchange reserves. PT Timah Industri is a subsidiary of PT Timah Tbk. PT Timah Tbk is a tin mining company which is based in Bangka Island. PT Timah is a member of Mind ID. And PT Timah Industri is established in 1988 and we only started to focus on tin chemicals in 2010. We now run 4 plants for stannic chloride with capacity of 3,000 tons. The brand is Bangka Stannic. Then the methylene dichloride with a capacity of 8,000 with the brand of Bangka Stab DMT series, and methyl stabilizer with a capacity of 10,000 ton per year with the brand of Bangka Stab MT series, and welding tin with a capacity of 2,000 ton per year with the brand of Bangka Esa. As a manufacturing company, we abide by international standards and national standards, including ISO and SMK3, and then FDA standards for the American market and REACH for the European standards, European market. But first, let me tell you about the integration of tin industry, because as a subsidiary of PT Timah Tbk, we procure our raw material from PT Timah. PT Timah runs good mining practices on their operating location, from exploration, both on land and offshore, and the mining itself, both offshore and onshore, and then the mineral processing to increase the content, the tin content through washing, and this is done in Pulau Kundur and in Pulau Bangka. The first horizontal manufacturing had started in 1974 by smelting the tin ore and refine them so that we get tin bars with a concentration of 99.9%. This is sold through the Jakarta commodity market for domestic and overseas market. 95% is sold overseas and 5% is sold to the domestic market to meet the domestic demand. Out of the domestic market, we buy it from the commodity market, and starting 2010, we started the downstreaming for welding tin and other tin products. So basically, there is a process, a downstreaming and added value with the smelting. So from ore to tin bar, there is an added value, and from about 2%. And from tin bars to tin chemicals, there is an added value of 2 to 2.5%. In the next slide, we can see these are the products of tin chemicals that we produce and their applications. Globally, the world consumes 355,000 tons of tin, most of them used for solder, mostly for electronic industries. 17% or about 60 ton per year is used for tin chemical, for plastic stabilizers. For tin plates, about 12% is used for food packaging, and for lead acid batteries, 7%, and copper alloys 5%, and other applications 8%. On the right, you can see some of the applications, some of the ways tin chemicals are used for industry, so soldier, then construction in using PVC and other uses. In the next slide, these are some of the tin chemical products and how they are applied. So these are some of our products: stannic chloride, dimethyl tin dichloride, methyl tin stabilizer, and the first one, the newest one, is tin 1-pack. And at the bottom are the packaging that we used. And these products are used. The Bangka step MT620 is used for general purposes. The Bangka step TC192 with tin concentration of 16% is used as is used in PVC as film and laminate. Bangka step top 182 pH is our our newest product. It's used for extrusion, that is for pipes that is lead free. So those are some of the applications. That there's some of the products that applies or uses our products. And it's also used in certain features, certain construction features, and in medical packaging and cable wrappers or cable insulation. In automotive, so in developing this insulation, they also use the methyl tin stabilizers, and also in preparation of leather, it will also they also use this stabilizer in the processing. For tin soldier and application, soldier tin and application, we have produced a number of products, cast bars and extruded bars, balls and half balls, and solid wire. We produce Bangka SA 305, Bangka SA 907, and Bangka SA 6337. So this consists of tin, silver, and copper, and then others contains tin and copper, or tin and lead. But all these products are made using Japanese standard and ISO standard, and the idea is that all the products comply with the regulation and standards. These are used for electronic products and automotive, especially in electronic panels on the dashboard on your cars, for example. And in the next slide, this is the market for tin chemical and soldier tin in 2021 that we cater to. In 2021, until as of October, our market share for the export market, our biggest market is in India and the United States, which constitutes 57% of our market. And the biggest market for soldier tin is Taiwan and China. Indonesia is the third biggest market for tin chemicals. And from this export, from this business and chemical business, we estimate that by 2021 we would have been able to contribute $70 million in export value. And this assumption is made with the assumption that the prices of tin, which is the raw material for our products, will continue to be stable. So this is what I can share from PT Timah Industri. Thank you so much, Mr. Primus. Back to you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So your plant is in Bangka Belitung. The plant is in Cilegon. So it's a downstream industry and you're export oriented. Next, we're going to listen to Pak Yohanes Nangoi, Chair of Gaikindo, Indonesia Automotive Industry Association, which has recently successfully organized the Car Expo 2021. So good afternoon, other panelists and Pak Primus Dorimulu. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak in this webinar. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the automotive industry. As Pak Primus said earlier, we have recently organized the biggest vehicle expo in Southeast Asia. It's the first expo of that kind. After the pandemic, we observed very strict health protocols. Many people came with thousands of cars were sold with the transaction value of in the trillions of rupiah. So yeah, Indonesian people are very enthusiastic about cars. So please show my presentation. So what I want to show in this on this occasion is the current condition of Indonesian automotive industry. Before the pandemic, on average, we sell on average 1.1 million vehicles annually, and we export over 300,000 or 350,000 SVUs, and knockdown components about 80,000, over 80,000, and other millions of parts. And we only import less than 100,000, maybe about 80,000 units of cars. So we can be, I can proudly say that Indonesia has an independent car industry. With the COVID pandemic and the lockdown in March 2020, the sales of vehicles had plummeted. While on average we sold 80 to 90,000 units every month. During the pandemic, we sold probably just 5,000 units per month because people don't go out. They can't even think about buying cars. They won't even buy clothes or shoes because they don't wear it anywhere. Cars are not considered essential. So vehicle sales just plummeted to the ground. We received a message from the government that telling us not to lay off our workers, and we have to struggle because our sales only range around 5%. But fortunately, we did not have to lay off a lot of workers, but although we did have to end the contract of our contract workers, and the government had also instructed us to make sure that laid off workers are paid severance pay, and that we also made sure to follow. And with the help of the Ministry of Industry in 2021, So the government made a policy to pay for value-added tax for luxury goods, and this has helped the sale of vehicles. So domestically, we already start selling at around 85,000 units per month, almost near the pre-COVID numbers, and we are starting to rehire people because we are increasing production. We even have a line of people queuing up to buy cars because we could not keep up with the demand. More people want to buy cars, but we couldn't produce them fast enough for them. In 2021, in terms of volume of sales, as of September, there has been a growth of 68%. Export has also rose by 33% because of certain regulation relaxation. But as the engine of economy, we have a very long train of industries surrounding us, from insurance, components or parts, and others. It is hoped that with the recovery of the automotive industry, the other industries will be moving along or progressing along with us. Now, this chart shows that our export is predicted to continue to increase more than its import. We have imported less than 50,000, maybe around 40,000 last year, and we forecast but we forecast a market of around 900,000 units next year. Still a little bit above, about 15% less than the 2018-2019 figures. This is a very cautious forecast because we are still uncertain about what's going to happen with the pandemic, whether it's going to end soon or not. The automotive industry still has a very sizable potentials. The minister said that the car ownership number is still very low in Indonesia. There are only 99 cars per 1,000 people in Indonesia. In Thailand, there are 275 cars per 1,000 people, and in Malaysia 490,000 cars per 1,000 people. Now, with a total population of 270 million, and we divide this by 1,000, we will need about 27,000 cars. So to do this, we have to increase the sales of cars, or the production and sales of cars, by tenfold. So in Indonesia, if there's only 100 cars per 1,000 people, and compare it with 275 cars out of 1,000 in Thailand, and there's only a little gap between our GDP and Thailand's, so we need to sell 27.5 million cars per 1,000 people. So we need to, this is what the minister said earlier, that we need to continue to boost and maintain automotive industry because we have a huge market, and with the increasing purchasing power and the government's effort to build highways, which is only for four-wheeled vehicles, for trucks, not for airplanes, not for motorbikes. So the idea, like for example, it's possible now to go from Jakarta to Surabaya along a highway and stopping in some rest areas in very beautiful scenic areas in Salatiga, for example. And people will see that it is quite a competitive way to travel compared to taking the airplane. So this is why the automotive industry will continue to grow, and with the improvement of infrastructure, this industry will only grow even better. The minister had also spoken about efforts to go toward green mobility, so zero emission vehicles. So cars will focus more on those that produce as little emission as possible or even zero emission, whether it's electric vehicle or hybrid cars or hydrogen car or biofuel car. Biofuel car are cars that are cars like now that use clean fuel. So we have B30, so 30% biodiesel. And if we can up this number to 100% biodiesel from palm oil, that a clean source of energy that causes no carbon emission, then this is still a clean car, a green car. So this is what is termed as green mobility. So that's basically what I have to share, Pak Primus. Because I only have 10 minutes, I can talk about this for 1 and 2 hours. But this is just briefly what I am trying to share. Just to confirm, so you said that only 99 people have out of 1,000 can have cars in Indonesia now. So let's say we want to go from 99 cars to 100 cars per 1,000 people. Now, because we have 270 million people, so if we want to add the number by 1 car, so from 199 to 100, we have to sell 27,000 cars. So if you want to increase that to 200 cars per 1,000 people, we need to sell 27 million cars. So this is why the minister said that we have very good potentials. The automotive industry has a very good potential because we have very sizable market. I have other questions, but we will give that opportunity to the audience.
Yes, first question to Ibu Mega. How your company could surpass the challenge if the purchasing power of the people is reduced due to COVID? Now, this is the question from Andika Daben. Yes, thank you. So first, Widodo Makmur Perkasa is a holding company from Widodo Makmur Unggas or poultry. So WMU is one of the subsidiary of WMP. And then when the people purchasing power is decreased due to COVID, how do we handle it? Well, the way we see it, this is temporary. And we believe that the consumption of meat and poultry will increase in the near future. But we also taken mitigation step regarding the consumption of beef and poultry. So we have cold storage facilities. So if we have oversupply or a decrease in demand, we will put that extra meat into our cold storage, wait until the demand is increased again. And then here, our group already have the slaughterhouse with international standard compliance. I guess that is all from my side. Thank you. Second question addressed to Pak Tirta Jaya Hambali from Dina Plus. You mentioned earlier that our country will become petrochemical country #1 in Asian region. Now, can the plastic as raw material can be manufactured nationwide, domestically, without have to import it? Right. Thank you so much for the question. In my opinion, raw material can be produced domestically in Indonesia. And here, the raw material could be plant-based, or in other sense, from petrochemical product. But it doesn't mean that we have to import the raw material. And what the Minister of Industry mentioned, and this is very interesting, we believe that the plastic industry, especially at the downstream level, we don't have to import the raw material so that we could compete at export level better. That is all. Next question addressed to all panelists. Question from Taufik Hidayat. What do you think regarding the labor demonstration who demand the wages without seeing the impact, overall impact to the industry? And Pak Ivan? Yes. Well, we have to see things in an objective perspective, and we must come up with a win-win solution. If the wage is too high, then it will affect inflation. So it's like a vicious circle. So here, if the costs increase, we have to increase the price of our product, and it will disrupt the consumer goods market as well. So that's why we have to be very careful, especially when we are exporting. So we have to benchmark our product against other products, our competitor. And if we compare with other countries, neighboring countries, our minimum wage is quite high. So we don't want to have boomerang effect, because increase of salary meaning there will be an increase of production costs. So we have to be very careful. What about automotive? You have a different level and you have a lot of workers? Yes. For our sector, we experiencing a dilemma. Our labor union they are very high strung, they're very determined. And here, the wage or salary is an obstacle for us. We do not against the increase of wage, but must be followed with increased productivity as well. So it is balanced. Because, for example, Toyota manufacturing automotive, it is located in Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, and Malaysia. So here, the president director of Toyota in Japan could easily see which factory is more competitive. And if we see the productivity level is higher, the wage is more competitive, then the factory in that particular country will be expanded further. Now, here, from our side, we also organize many training. And in this case, again, I emphasize that the productivity level need to be increased. So it's not that they demand an increase of salary alone. And here, the previous speaker is correct that we have to increase our competitive advantage. And now we have roughly 15 minutes. Now I would like to ask each panelist, and we also invite you to convey your closing statement. First, to Pak Ivan. It's very interesting how your company receive products from the farmer's side. And how do you purchase from the farmers? Are you acting as off-taker? Because for groundnuts, for example, in NTT, they could produce a lot of groundnuts, and there are still many households in NTT which are poor. Yes, Pak Primus, thank you for that. We admit to go into the agricultural sector and to work directly with farmers is quite complex because there are differences of mindset and social belief. For example, in village area, when you take something and you steal something, it's the same. So you could take something, it's not stealing, but you can take something even though it doesn't belong to you. Now, here, first, we have to make ourselves closer with the farmers or head of the village. So 70% we have social interaction. So if we could cover the 70%, we could make ourselves closer with the farmers, know what their real basic needs, and we could come up with win-win solution, and we could prove to them that we could make this collaboration work, then it's okay. Because for them, seeing and receiving the evidence, the concrete evidence, is the most important thing. And then, Ibu Mega, you have this integrated farming, green farming, circular economy, but we have a still relatively low level of consumption, like for poultry, eggs, beef, even soccer player, athletes, their protein consumption is still far below the international athlete. Now, how do you overcome this? It's like socialization so that the consumption rate could increase, and how the people in Sulawesi, in Sumatra and Papua have this raise awareness so they could increase their protein consumption. Yes, thank you for that question. Here, in order to develop food security and to provide food supply for whole Indonesia, we plan to expand our business and facility so that we could cover the market not only in Java, but in Papua, Sulawesi, and Sumatra. And we will continue to conduct socialization training for all of our business partners, local community, through various programs, because we work with various foundations. And in our foundation, we give more attention to local farmers and young entrepreneurs who would like to collaborate with us. Right. Now, Pak Tirta, you're in the plastic business, Tina Plus, and you relate with people, scavengers who collect used bottles. Now, from there, how many you use recycled plastic and how many new plastic? Well, we have this existing commitment that the product we produce with the period of 2020 to 2025, 25% of all materials we will use from recycled material. So we work together with Coca-Cola company, as I mentioned, and Amadina company, and we will complete the investment in building PEP factory and using post-consumer bottles. And with this collaboration, we have established a foundation to assist people who collect used bottles or scavengers all over Indonesia. So when they collect the plastic bottles, we could cover them, and also we provide training so that they have a better understanding. And what we're doing currently, we plan to intensify our outreach, and of course, we have this stigma from the people that the plastic is hard to be recycled and it is creating a global trash, but we are trying very hard to mitigate that belief. All right, now going back to Ibu Ria with lead industry, you mentioned about the added value. Do you think it is still room for you to optimize further so that the price of lead could be increased? Well, lead, we could apply it in 5 themes. And as I mentioned in my presentation, and unfortunately still 5 remain to those 5 aspects. And apart from tin solder, we could have go to other division, and several of our customers are plastic industry player. And we also export our product to the US and India for the tin chemical. Whereas for tin solder, a lot of electronic manufacturer in Indonesia move overseas. So for tin solder, it's experiencing a decrease. So we plan to improve that segment. And now, Pak Johannes, the Minister of Industry have conveyed high expectations towards automotive. Now, by year 2030, we must be hub for electric cars that use battery. Now, what do you think? Because automotive in Indonesia is still ruled by Japan, and it's difficult to imagine ourselves using electric cars. I agree with what the minister mentioned, that we have to start concentrating with clean gas emission, because this is future cars. Fossil fueled car slowly but surely will be replaced with new generation cars that is cleaner. So when fossil fueled cars depleted, we want Indonesia to progress further. And if there's no changes, then we will have to increase import, and this would be unfortunate. Therefore, the Ministry of Industry underlined the specific sector, and they give blueprint and policies that take side with automotive industry, especially dealing with electric cars. But we also need to remember, we need to see the development of the technology itself, because electric cars is still more expensive than conventional cars. But I'm certain that as time goes by, it will become cheaper, more practical, and it could reach to mass production. So we are optimistic. So we don't have to see that who is the dominating player and Because in my opinion, it has no relevance, because whichever country who have this technology, people will go to that country. For example, at that time, we have VHS Betamax cassette. And then the winner is Android during that struggle back then. Now, whether the electric car originated from Korea, from Japan, from the US, it's okay. No problem. We could also see hybrid cars that could mix between fossil fuel and cleaner. So here we are open to opportunities. And for truck and cars, maybe it's good for them to have diesel fuel because it is more efficient and appropriate for bus and trucks. And maybe for short distance in city commute, electric cars is okay. But for interprovincial, you could use like a protein oil-based fuel. So we see how it goes. Yes, and we will have this by year 2030. Yes. So here, Ibu Mega and Pak Ivan, in order to accelerate food and beverage industry, what would be the most important policy that the government could release to support food and beverage industry? Well, here, the policy that could support us in this industry is to provide subsidy for the raw material for the cattle food or feedlot, so that it could help farmers and cattle owners in Indonesia. Well, the policy that could assist food and beverage is how the government could assist us in getting raw material that is good quality. And if we cannot find it in Indonesia, like almond, Indonesia cannot produce almond nuts because different climate. So we have to import almond nuts from US. Now here, if we could see policies that could enable us to compete better in ASEAN region, that would be good, especially regarding raw material. So if we could receive leniency, so we could better expand the downstream. What is the brand of the peanut you produce? We don't have our own brand, but B2B, we have customers for different industries of peanuts and almond. So we use the customer's brand. We don't have our own brand. All right, thank you. So we hear from 5 panelists, and they're all optimistic regarding next year economic outlook, both from automotive industry, plastic, food and beverage, and lead. And some of them say the same thing, that the obstacle that they're facing is concerning raw material. And this will help accelerate the industry. And then all of our panelists, they are interested and they agree with green economy, circular economy. This is the trend for the future. Whatever we do, we must consider the well-being of our mother nature, our planet, and we must achieve net zero emission. And then the impact towards the people. We are not solely after the profit alone, but we want to create greater good, especially during this pandemic. We want to make sure that our workers remain productive, fruitful. And now, with the pandemic situation has reduced, and we are struggling to find certain commodities now. And next year, we will go into expansion. Hopefully, there will be more job employment, increasing demand as well. So thank you so much to Bapak Yohanes Nangoy, to Ibu Ria Wardani, to Pak Ivan Cokro, Bapak Tirta Jaya Hambali, and Ibu Mega Nurfitriana. Stay safe. All the best to you all. And now I would like to give the mic to MC. Yes. Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of our session, of our second session. And we would like to convey gratitude to our sponsors. Thank you to Tinfoil, University 11 Maret, Indonesia Capital Market Institute, and Good News for Indonesia. Thank you for supporting our event. I'm Patricia. Hope to see you again. And after this, we have third session to accelerate tourism industry with various speakers. Bapak Budi from Panorama Tour and Travel, Ibu Shana Fatina, Managing Director of Labuan Bajo Tourism Port, and we have Bapak Ananta Wiyogo, Managing Director of Sarana Multigria Financial SMF, and Bapak George from Digital Global Network Ticket.com, and Bapak Peter Fansil, President Director of Alliance Insurance. Thank you so much for your kind attention and participation. All the best to you all. God bless.